UAVs do bring unique capabilities into our military organization, and it will be important for future commanders to utilize those capabilities to their greatest extent. That's where our future lies, is a blend of both manned and unmanned technologies.
Whether in the sky, on the ground, or in the water, unmanned vehicles have received a great deal of attention lately. Unmanned systems offer our forces the ability to deliver materials, gather data, and strike targets from distances great and small. However, despite such achievements, this technology is still very new and very limited in certain circumstances. That is why NPS's CRUSER, Consortium for Robotics and Unmanned Systems Education and Research, intentionally focuses on unmanned systems. Reaching full potential and beyond is no easy task. To call attention to their effort, CRUSER once again took center stage at the annual Robotics Showcase at NPS.
This event is the culmination of a 3-day set of exercises. We've done 2 days of technical continuum where we've had 30 short focused talks by faculty and students about projects that they're working on or would like to work on.
Sometimes what happens is you get these people who might not have otherwise had a working relationship with one another from a collaboration point of view, come together and say, hey, I have an idea for that, and start something that's novel and innovative.
You get feedback, you get follow-on emails, and people present ideas that we hadn't thought of, that we can then integrate into our project. Or they see something, maybe a specific element of this launcher that they say, hey, I can apply this to what we're currently trying to solve.
Being a distance learning student, I didn't have a good understanding of the real scope of the unmanned systems development. So being here at TechCon, one of the biggest things that I'm taking away is having an understanding of how many different projects like that are going on.
What I like to say about CRUSER is it allows us to bring people together to have that conversation. And so what I typically like to say is that conversation leads to collaboration and collaboration leads to innovation.
As a professor at NPS, nothing makes me more excited than to see our students all fired up about their thesis work and their class research. And several of the projects here are going to provide immediate application in the field environment, record-breaking applications for flying high numbers of small UAS systems in the airspace. So very excited about seeing that.
So what we have here is we're building a UAV launcher, and our goal is to make it capable of supporting swarm operations. In the sense of our Arsenal lab that we're working with, their goal is to have a 25v25 autonomous air war with these UAVs that you see launched there. They're called the Zephyr II. The limitation they currently have is that the UAV has a 45-minute endurance. We want 50 aircraft airborne, and we'd like a 30-minute combat time. So in order to facilitate that, you have to get all the aircraft airborne in 15 minutes or 15 seconds per launch. Their current system uses a bungee that's 100 feet stretched out, and they're using an individual to go retrieve it each launch. It takes a minute to a minute and a half. So the team came to us and said, hey, how can we do this better? How can we get them airborne faster? So what we did is we went through a systems engineering process to kind of identify the needs of the stakeholder, the capability gaps and what they currently had, and then set out to figure out how can we fill those gaps and satisfy the stakeholder. From that perspective, we eventually arrived at this rolling chain type design. Uses an electric motor. It accelerates the assembly from 0 to 35 miles an hour. Our goal is to do it in about 8 feet, which is what you see here. Eventually, we'll continue using iterative prototyping to build technology in at each phase as we prove the basic technology or our key performance parameters. I did the mechanical design here. I had a partner, Lieutenant Livesay, and he did the key part that I think is the key technology of the future, and that's the electronics and the programming.
With this particular version, we're talking about using high voltages of 48 DC volts and currents of up to 400 peak amps. There's some unique challenges that come along with that, and we're hoping to overcome some of those challenges with electrical components, some relays. We're going to be hooking up microcontrollers. Hopefully we'll be able to drive it with something like a PS3 controller wirelessly via Bluetooth. So there's a lot of enabling technologies out there that already exist. We're just hoping to be able to draw from this and draw from that, bring it all together and put it into a nice package where all you have to do is flip the on button and everything auto boots, everything energizes the way it's supposed to, and all you have to do is turn the switch on and be able to drive it.
My capstone project was the third phase of a three-phase project to help improve the airworthiness process between NavAir, who is responsible for airworthiness for all naval aircraft, and Naval Postgraduate School, an organization that operates a lot of small UAVs as a part of their ongoing research. Probably one of the biggest things that opened my eyes is how the airworthiness process is not really equipped to handle the approval of airworthiness for unmanned aerial vehicles, especially small ones. The system is set up and has been set up for many years to approve the airworthiness of manned platforms such as F-18s and P-8s and other normal aircraft that we think about when we think about naval aviation. But the unmanned aerial vehicle brings unique capabilities and a unique situation into this mix that the system, the process, is not exactly adapted to yet. The nature of our project was to help identify where those barriers are and try to make some changes to that process to allow for smoother approval of flight clearances for small unmanned aerial vehicles.
Previously, to reach out and touch you, it took a physical touch. Now, I can reach out and touch you from my living room. It's critically important, not only for infrastructure and commercial applications of that technology piece, also, in our case, the warfighter. It's how wars will be battled in the future, for sure.
We're working with teams at the Naval Academy, at 3rd Fleet down at SPA War Systems Center Pacific, and here on campus at the Naval Postgraduate School to explore the extent of robotic warfare, especially in robot-on-robot warfare, and where does ethics actually become involved in that?
At NPS, we've gathered together myself as a naval flight officer. We also have a Navy surface warfare officer and a Marine infantry officer. We were given a basic scenario of what a potential future war might look like for the use of robotics in the next 2 to 3 decades. The brainstorming process was fairly easy. We started with working out the crazy ideas and then determining what would be simplest and most flexible. Some of us were thinking in terms of technology, some of us think in terms of networks, some of us considered the political or the operational considerations. The benefit of having different perspectives is that we all came up with lots of ideas. Our ideas were financially and technologically feasible and thus most effective in future war and future peace.
Certainly the existence of UAVs in our future is an important one. There's a lot of talk and has been a lot of talk about UAVs over the past 10 years even, that they're going to replace manned vehicles and so on and so on. I don't think that's necessarily true. However, UAVs do bring unique capabilities into our military organization, and it will be important for future commanders to utilize those capabilities to their greatest extent, all the while utilizing manned vehicle capabilities to their maximum extent, where you will then have a synergy between the two. I think that's where our future lies, is a blend of both manned and unmanned technologies in order to have an efficient warfighting machine.
Wave Glider is an unmanned surface vehicle. It was developed by a company called Liquid Robotics, and it's sort of a very unique design in which, if you look at it, it looks like a surfboard. You know, it's about 7 feet long. They can be longer, but on the top of it has photocells, which gather energy from the sun to power sensors. Below it has an umbilical that hangs down that has vanes, and these vanes capture the wave energy, and it's the wave energy that actually propels this unmanned surface vehicle through the water. And so it's unlimited in its ability to be propelled all over the world for as long as you want. You don't have to recharge a battery or anything. And if you have sensors on there to sense, let's say, oceanographic kind of parameters like salinity or pressure or speed through the water or temperature, then you're getting that data being provided back via satellite back to the home base, wherever that may be. So it's a very unique design. The Office of Naval Intelligence was one area of the Navy that picked it up to start to doing some experimentation with it to see what capabilities it might provide the Navy. The Naval Postgraduate School now has recognized that. We have been able to get 2 wave gliders now, one from the Office of Naval Intelligence. They called it the Shark, and the other we got basically by using some of the funding here from the Naval Postgraduate School, but also with some contributions from the actual company, Liquid Robotics. Now we have these, I would call them toys almost, but they're platforms that we can use. Now we can really start to do some work with those, with our innovative ideas, with our work on trying to figure out how best to use them, what sort of capabilities do they really give us. It's primarily for oceanographic kind of sensing, as I mentioned, the kind of parameters it does. However, now the Navy is looking at it for other uses. Those other uses may be for intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance. If you put the right sort of sensors on it, it can sense some important things in areas that we would like to know more about. Or it could be used as a barrier kind of where you're having it patrol back and forth in an area where you'd like to know if there's any, let's say, submarine action, where if you have the right sort of sensors. Now, we haven't developed all these sensors yet, but it offers a lot of, I think, ability for the Navy to do things that, one, it's certainly less expensive and less risky. You know, we've always wanted to be able to operate in some very risky areas without putting a man in that risky area. For instance, a minefield. Perhaps you could have the right sort of sensor to detect mines on one of these things. So it goes into the area, it can detect them, it can provide the data back as to where they might be. That's a lot less expensive, a lot less risky than putting a multi-billion-dollar submarine in there or putting a man in there. So it offers, I think, a tremendous potential for the future for the Navy.
The Naval Postgraduate School recently honored Everett Alvarez, Jr., inducting him into the Hall of Fame. Alvarez, a POW for 8 years during the Vietnam War, Deputy Director of Veterans Affairs, founder of an information technology and executive management services company, attended NPS and attained a master's degree in operations analysis in the late 1970s. The Honorable Everett Alvarez took time out of his busy schedule to share aspects of his life with us, particularly his service and his time at NPS, which helped shape his career.
When you go through an experience, I believe, number one, it will harden you in terms of your steadfast commitment to your principles. It gives you an outlook, a new outlook on your life. And it really allows you to think about the opportunities and what you're missing out on if you don't take advantage of doing something positive, not only for yourself, but to pay back.
There's been a lot of talk through the DoD about resiliency. How does it feel to be resilient?
I believe that resiliency in the face of adversity is something that it's either in you or it's not. And I think we see it in today's young people. I see it in the people that have come through the postgraduate school. You see it, kids coming out of the academies or the universities. And even though the times are different and the modes are different, there's an inner toughness that goes along with being an American citizen. It's there, and it is ready to come out when it needs to come out.
What was your time like at NPS, and how did it impact you?
My experience at the postgraduate school was a journey into like an unknown, because I knew that it was going to build me a foundation for the future, and I did not know what that future was. I was newly married, and of course both my boys were born here in Monterey. It was very demanding, and I was able to take it in stride. I would have to say that the curriculum and the association with the faculty really enhanced my outlook in terms of being able to take advantage of any opportunities. And so when I left here, I wanted to give myself a chance to see what was out there. And so I did with the foundation I had that I picked up here, not just doing analytic work or engineering work or operational work, but whatever came aboard. It served me well when I left the military in terms of the positions I had with the Veterans Administration, where I was the number 2 person for a number of years. Looking back, it was extremely helpful.
Do you happen to have any words of wisdom for new service members today?
For a young person who is entering the military service, my statement would be that you are entering into a service of tradition of the highest degree with respect to honor, with respect to dedication not only to service but to your country and to those beliefs. The service, in turn, will give you tremendous opportunity to grow as an individual. It will reward you in many, many ways, many times over, and you will value that service for the rest of your life. You may not realize it while you're in the Navy, while you're in the service, but you will reflect back many, many times in the future, and you will recognize how important that service and that period of active duty was and is to you. And so I would say take advantage of those opportunities. You can grow, you can learn, you could accomplish, and it's all up to you.
This has been Inside NPS. Thank you for watching.